Hi everyone. We're group 2-1 and we are excited to present our final product to you guys today. My name is Caroline. This is Steed or Joseph. And then we have two other group members, Grace and Nathan, who are not with us, but who have put a lot of hours into it. So as you can see, Steed is sharing his screen and this is the live application of our final product. It's a website displaying information about donuts that connects to an RDS database in AWS. And we'll talk a little bit more about what we've done. But once this infrastructure is approved, we would spend a little bit more time on the UX and doing what the customer wants with the website.
Okay, so we're going to dive right into showing what our infrastructure does, both ideal and actual functional. Everything is hosted within Amazon Web Services, so you don't have to purchase any IT needs or have any extra hires. And ideally, in the end, everything will be deployed using CloudFormation, which is infrastructure as code. Most of this is deployed using AWS CloudFormation. There are some pieces that are not, though, that we'll get to at the end. Developers will actually start using Amazon's code pipeline and code deploy and code commit. They will commit code into code commit and it'll be deployed into two different locations. First location is Amazon S3, where all the static content will be delivered using Amazon CloudFront in various edge locations. This provides for very low latency and makes it very easy for users to have a good user experience since there's not like a lot of lag. And then the other location is backends will be deployed in Amazon EC2 instances within an auto scaling group. These will be fronted with a load balancer, specifically an application load balancer for web applications. And in this public subnet, since they'll need to have internet access, obviously, they will also have access to private subnet where our Amazon relational database system will be located. Currently, that is actually deployed using a not a serverless RDS instance, but a regional one just for this region of US East too. And and this allows us to be able to make sure the database is a little more secure. But we're able to then iterate over it because it's not serverless and have public access using a very secure password. So, and then finally in the end, obviously you saw that this uses, the current site uses an IP address. This will be changed to an Amazon Route 53 record once you actually give us the domain that you want, and then we can request a certificate. But yeah, I'll pass it off to you, Caroline.
Thanks, Steve. So we have a cost now estimate of what we have on Lucidchart, and it's looking about $90,000 a year. And on this, we have everything. We have our S3 bucket, we have CloudFront, we have, as Steve scrolls down, you can see the load balancing, CloudWatch, code deploy, Amazon EC2, instances, Elastic IP, Aurora MySQL, and code pipeline. So it seems like a lot of money, but considering the value that AWS is bringing to the company, it is a great investment. So it will reduce the amount of time that workers will have to spend on infrastructure and deployment and so many other things. So with that, Steve, do you want to go over?
Yeah, I'll go over the actual infrastructure. So developers here in code commit, they'll actually start, they'll have repositories. Specifically, this is our repository that we've actually used that's deployed to an EC2 instance. And here code, they'll use this and they'll deploy it using code deploy and code pipeline, which we'll not show right now. But this is the instance that we currently have that we connect with and that serves these websites. And initially, to kind of test load balancing and test some of the auto scaling, we used Elastic Beanstalk. However, the actual CloudFormation template does not use Elastic Beanstalk. It uses auto scaling groups, or I guess it will use auto scaling groups, and it uses a load balancer instead to load balance to one or more EC2 instances to allow for better configurations in the long term. And then the RDS database, we have, as we stated earlier, we have a regional version that is available within this, within US East 2. And there's a read and a write instance. And we used this and we connected to it. We didn't use the serverless one yet, even though it was more secure. That way we could actually iterate and test the type of things that you wanted inside it. So as you see, we have these different things in our database, and these are actually reflected within the website that we have deployed currently. And with that, we do have the source code for the CloudFormation template, but I'll hand it off to Caroline to be able to explain the actual template itself.
Yeah, so here we have, Steve is gonna pull it up. Yep, here we go. So this is our CloudFormation template. Steve and I created this, and it was not created with Elastic Beanstalk. So it was created through many hours of reading AWS's documentation and trial and error. And as you can see, it has a lot of our resources on it. We have our RDS cluster with DB instance. We have EC2 instances and security group with everything with our code deploy and our code commit. That's kind of like all on green right there in the left bottom. And then on the left, everything to do with the Elastic load balancer and auto scaling. And we don't have everything exactly the way that we want it, but there are a lot of the things that we did have on our template. And if we had just a little bit more time, we probably could have gotten it perfect. And we recognize that it would be a great investment for the company to finish this and to have on hand. But in retrospect, if we're just going to shift into our retrospect, so Steve and I worked hard on the CloudFormation template, and Steve and I also had prior work commitments. So we were gone for 2 to 3 days, but we put in a lot of time and hours before, and Grace and Nathan worked while we were gone. And then Steve and I came together and kind of finished things up. So none of us have had any real AWS experience. Steve has had a little bit, but he's working on the CloudFormation with me, and he has never done that. So it was a great learning experience for Steve and I. And then Grace was in charge of the RDS and so the database and the front end of the web application, which Nathan helped with the database and getting that working. And then Nathan also did everything with our code deploy, code commit, Elastic or our load balancing. And then Steve and I also did the cost estimate and the presentation, obviously. So everybody worked really hard. It was fun. It was difficult sometimes to meet up with people and get the project kind of wrapped together. And we recognized that it was hard because we were gone for a couple of days. But our team is awesome, and we worked really, really hard, and we worked well together. And I think Steve has some other comments he wants to make.
Yeah, just kind of wrap up as we, just for the future, we acknowledge not everything here was built. And so specifically the separate subnets were not built yet, and we have not partitioned this into the multiple availability zones, which is fairly easy to configure, as we found out when testing it with load balancers. It's really easy to load balance between the target scaling groups. And the CloudFront is not deployed currently. So ideally in the end, the CloudFormation will be able to deploy these things as well, so that we can have the proper connections and all the security and advantages that will allow us to be able to scale to the entire United States and beyond. Thank you very much.